Pac-Man World. What can I say about this one little game that cooled? It's one of my first gaming experiences of all time, and it introduced me to the Pac-Man franchise as a whole. Love playing this game every now and then. I remember as a kid I would revisit stages all the time, trying to optimize the levels with the highest score possible, beating marathon mode the best it could, or even popping the classic gameplay every now and then. It had me hooked into it in many ways, and cemented itself into one of the pillars of my childhood, alongside many other PS1 games. Upon watching the hilarious speedruns of this game, which had the Pac-Man fidgeting from diagonal to diagonal to acquire ludicrous speeds, something that it can even be done in real time by the way, I noticed small changes within the game as they used the Japanese version of this. But really, the most egregious one to me being when Joester98 went through a lace in the space mazes and I was like, where was this Pac-Man world been all my life? I need to try this version now. So, then I got myself the Japanese version, I played through it the whole way, and then, well, I decided since I don't see any of these changes being really documented anywhere, I will at least make a video about it so people can know. Here's the bizarre Pac-Man World US to Japanese changes list. One thing before I get on with this list is that of course, I might miss a thing or two. So if you know something that I don't, please let me know. I try to be as thorough as possible, but you know, things always slip through the cracks. Before I move on, I should mention that I haven't played the European version. I'm a little exhausted with this game to do so at the moment, so yeah, if you wanna let me know about those, then you can also tell me. On to the list. First, the general changes that encompass the whole game. It's pretty standard, but as most Japanese game, X is now cancelled and circles now accept. The font has been colored brighter and with a more greenish yellow hue to it. This causes the rainbow effect used to the score to appear a little brighter, and it also seems that for most text on the screen it has been enlarged. Here's two similar screenshots overlaid on top of each other. Can you see it? I sure can. It also seems that the timer for the bonus stages has been moved closer to where the score is. The font has been given a percentage symbol, something that the original game actually lacks. I found that out when I was editing the game's text with China Engine with the US version ones. The percentage symbol is used on the memory card save screen. Onto a bigger change now. Enemies can be killed again for extra bonus points if they respawn, something that you couldn't actually do in the US version of the game, as they give you no score if you do the same on them. This actually means that if there's a section where you can make enemies respawn over and over, you could potentially inflate your score so high that a high score basically just becomes worthless. Granted, the original Pac-Man World US release had some glitches in some levels that made the same possible. There's also a couple glitches that make certain items respawn multiple times, but this seems to apply to most stages in the Japanese version of the game, as most of them let you go back and forth, allowing you to reload 11 chunks to kill enemies within. Now, while I say the high score is meaningless in this version, they actually introduced a level score cap. The cap is actually exactly 327,675 points. You got that? Good. You can add more points to the slot machine. However, the same level high score will always be capped at 327, you know the number. Before knowing this change, I knew that in the American version of the game, it would refuse to add your level score to the grand score if it was way too big. Turns out, it actually fixes a glitch. See, Pac-Man World stores all level high scores in a clever way. First, it takes what your level score is, and since it's always going to be a multiple of 5, the game divides it by 5 and saves it to the memory card as a 16 bits unsigned integer, which goes from 0 to 65,535. And what do you know? 65,535 times 5 is exactly 327,675. Now, if you were to attempt to leave the level with a score higher than this amount in the US version of the game, it will just simply discard it, not add it to your grand score, and save a new level high score of 0. The glitch is that with this, you can delete level high scores. And another thing is that the score cap even happens during the marathon mode. So if you get that many, then that's all you can get. Whew! Okay, I think I ramble enough about computer science stuff. Let's keep going with the changes. Health wedges, both red and white, are worth 500 points if picked up at full health, or at least that's the intention. To me, it seems the game checks the health after the health has been added to Pac-Man. So white wedges give you 500 points when you have 2 or 3 units of health, and red wedges always give 500 points. Pac-Man letters are worth 200 points each. Fruits have been all revalued, making a lot of them redundant actually. Well, maybe except for fruit door use. This is the original score table for each fruit. And this is the new score table. As a result, the graphics for the 600 and 700 points being added go unused, as they still exist in VRAM, but nothing gives you that amount. This might not actually be their palette, but it's as close as it gets. Fun fact about this is that if you go to the adjust screen menu and leave it, the game will still order the fruit as if its point values were the ones in the USA version. Back to game is no longer an option in the pause menu. Instead, you press X or star to resume the game. The first option is exit level, and the second option is the options. The game will refill your health at the start of a bonus level, a maze, and when you clear the maze. I think the only time it doesn't is when you leave a stage through the exit stage options. And I also don't recall it's applying to marathon mode. You just carry on the health that you had at the end of the maze. Speaking of mazes, here's the one change that I felt was made for the worst. In quest mode, you had to complete the maze in 1 life in order for it to be unlocked in maze mode. If you run out of health, you will be kicked back to the level with no life loss. So to try again, you had to start a whole stage from the beginning. No exceptions. If you 100% a bonus stage, you'll receive 2000 bonus points. Check out the message right away. It's also different. It says 100% very good. Also, all bonus stages timers have been increased by 10 seconds, as you can see here in this comparison. In Ghost Island, the silver Pac-Man icons will not turn gold unless you've cleared that level's maze, if any. When loading a stage, instead of reading level high score, the game reads stage high score. The maze clear messages alternate from good, very good, excellent, and clear. I also noticed the health is refilled exactly at this point. By the way, sadly I don't have footage of the messages since they're random and not much important. The new level high score text is different. Instead it says high score Korashin. Not sure how worth it is to mention considering it probably says the same, but yeah. Alright, here's a little more meaningful change. Ghosts in ghost zones will never respawn. This even includes respawning ghosts such as the ones in the final section of the level far out. The only exception to this is the level Gimme Space, in which if you use the glitch that allows you to do the ghost zone again, we'll have all the ghosts spawn once more. Any damage source cannot harm you while a power pellet is active. We'll get to the specifics of that after we talk about the level changes, because there's a lot to talk in here. The amount of points necessary to acquire the magic key has been changed. In the original version of the game, it is given at 1 million points. It is now 765,000. 7650. The message appears after the slot machine has been played. This actually fixes a bug in the US version in which if you acquire an extra life while the sequence is playing, it will just interrupt it. This actually happened to me midstream. Now, this change does account for the rescoring of the fruits. However, since you can grind score out of the enemies, you can get this magic key way earlier than you're supposed to. I got mine by the funhouse stages. But if you have the patience, you can get it by the 3rd level. I'm not kidding. This allows you to simply bypass most stages, since the key breaks every level entrance in the game, which spawns the level entrance tokens. With this, you can go directly to the stages that have Pac-Man's friends, and you can just unlock them with the magic key. To open Toc-Man's Lair, all you need is Pac-Man's 6 friends and to beat every boss. That's it! Not like it's any faster to grind out the 765,000 points, however. but it's just hilariously there. It's a thing you can do indeed. The Super Pack Dot Explosion only needs 5 Pack Dots instead of 10. The bug that makes the adjust screen text gigantic in bonus stages has been fixed. Marathon mode is no longer required for 100% completion. You still need to beat it for a gallery though, but this is a significant change compared to the fact that in the US version you need it for the final extra 5% that you get. Now let's talk about the changes for the level completion tally. The game tallies the dots, then the game awards the level score extra lives at once together with the fruit at the same time. And by the way, if you have a lot of points, this can make the loudest noise in the whole planet. Here, have a listen. There is also text that indicates you can skip each part with circle. However, if the stage had no dots, then the additional points is done after the slot machine as normal, kind of. It's still done all in one go. The way the game compares the level score with the level high score looks slightly different. In the original game it had either level score or new level high score depending if you beat it or not. And there was a little text in the middle that says either it beats or did not beat. That text is absent in the Japanese release of the game. Level score is replaced with Sannen Haisukoa Waka Warimasen, which roughly means sorry, high score was not beaten. New level high score you still uses the message that you get in mid-level though. The fonts do not have gradients on the text that displays the back dots, fruit, and grand score. Memory card reading seems to take longer. The totals displayed on a save file and the current progress are displayed on the right instead of the left, except for the completion percentage. As for the slot machine, all slots have different patterns. Here's the pattern for the first reel, and it's the same one as the 3 ones in the US release. Here's the second, and here's the third. When adding the 100 bonus points, for 2 same fruits in a row it starts the score from 0 instead of what the level score was. Unless no dots are acquired like in both stages. Multiple 1-ups are awarded like this. In the US version, it looks like this. Whew! Well, alright, now that I got all the general stuff out of the way, let's go level by level and see what's been changed. For the mazes, I will state changes that are relevant to the layout, and we'll get to all maze changes after all the level specific changes. Also, my apologies if certain checkpoints do not show up in the footage. Use the level select to make recording footage easier, which requires you to set the variable the pause cursor to 3 in the Japanese version and 4 in the US. It removes all checkpoints but the relevant one to the section you warp into, most of the time at least. Anyway, on to with these changes. I did not see any changes in Bucaneer Beach at all. In the US version, to get the end you had to jump or butt bounce on a destructible barrel. If you do the latter and miss the end, it becomes inaccessible. The Japanese version rectifies this by changing it into a huge indestructible barrel. Not like it matters because you can just jump on top of the barrel and then jump out of it to the end. Remember that section with 3 cannons that you must use a helipad carefully to get across? In the US release, the power pellet is located on top of the lid of the highest cannon, requiring you to time a tricky jump. Should you miss it, you lose the chance to eat all 4 ghosts in the roof. In the Japanese version, it has been moved to the rightmost part of the roof, meaning there's no risk involved. There exists a section where a lot of enemies are walking about. In the US version, there's a blue switch that you must press to reveal the super butt bounce and create a pack dart arc. In the Japanese version, however, a chest that replaces the first skeleton of this section contains the super butt bounce, making the blue switch only reveal the dot arc. In the final section, the US version had you make a sort of blind jump on a very slim section of pointy wood on the front of the ship. This has been replaced with a walkway in the Japanese version. It even has a security wall on the right edge of it. The camera does not pan directly close to Pac-Man either. As for the maze changes, the edges of the maze have a beach-like border to it to make it seem like water rather than an empty blue sky space. There are absolutely no barrels. This makes the maze the same as Maze 1, and a joke. Only the tally has differences. The slots make a high-pitched fruit eat noise if you get a match, instead of the noise it's supposed to make. Pac-Man recovers shorter if hit by the debris released by the trap switches on the floor. This makes it harder for Pac-Man to get hit in quick succession twice. This is even true in the maze. Hitting the green switch behind the peach door, completing the area, and moving to the ghost zone after the lava bridge, and then coming back will respawn the dot chain, along with the sound of it. The same behavior happens if you approach this zone from the beginning of the level. Nothing happens in the US version if you do this. Rev rolling into mummies makes the same noise that the crushers in the stage do in Japan. The same flattened state change happens to the crushers in this stage. In the final ghost zone, only 3 bananas spawn and not 5. Trust me, even if I died in this part where I got 3, the last time I played this stage and didn't die, only 3 of them spawned. I really didn't want to re-record this part. Furthermore, going back for the key and then walking towards the zone will respawn all the dots. However, the ghosts and the fruit will not reappear, even if you die. The second maze had spears in the US release. Those are completely gone in the Japanese release. The title card looks completely different. Take a look. The final phase's beam takes longer to appear and reappear when it makes it all the way to the right, giving you more time to rev roll on the pads. Didn't notice any changes in Space Race. As mentioned at the beginning, the ghosts will not respawn in the original positions if you eat them. A small box platform has been added to the left of the column that has a C on it, which means you no longer have to butt bounce on the chest and grab the C in one clear try. They fixed the bug that made only the first Green Galaxian give 1,000 points. I think it's an indirect consequence of the respawning enemies giving points. And the music for the fight part fades out. Bumper cars can be killed with butt bounces now. Before, you could only rev roll them off the edges or use a super packet explosion to kill them. It seems that this series of platforms move slower in the Japanese version. Try looking at them closely and see. I almost missed this change, but thankfully I reread the description on Joester's any percent run. So checkpoint number 2, which was directly on top of the second yellow switch in the North American version, has been moved all the way on top of a ledge atop a spinning platform that has a chest on it. This is located to the right of the second lemon door. Rotating platforms activated by the yellow switch stop spinning if you respawn there after dying far away from them. This is indicated by the music restarting. This also applies to the outward clown steam vents. The short and flattened state introduces an issue where it's possible to get squashed multiple times by the same hammer. There's no bumper car near the series of bidons where the packed out chain is. Clown Prix, huh? Instead of ready, get, set, go, the game prompts 2, 1, go. Position counter has no gradient, it's bigger, it also flashes rainbows when it changes or you are in first place. Power pellets respawn on death. As long as you have extra lives, they're grindable. Clowns spawn running towards you very often in this version. Bombs do not damage Pac-Man, they merely slow him down. Most of the time! Collision with objects is buggier, it's easier to go through power pellets. Sometimes clowns spawn in the ground! Something I've never seen happening in the original version. Oh, and the tally has the same order as HMS Windbag. Rails do not surround the level completion token all around it. There are 2 big extra indestructible chests next to the rightmost pack dot chest in the area close to the Galaxian door. There are about 4 arrow signs pointing downwards in the area that has a C on it and down the pipe it leads to. Debris does not fall continuously on the ghost zone near the blue switch that allows you to complete the stage. And like in Perilous Pipes, rails do not surround the level completion token all around it. The key sits atop of another ledge. Pretend that's a key, I don't want to play through the game again. Near the banana door after pipe 4, the second pair of top tubes directly below it are not hot and can be touched safely. Once again, rails do not surround the level completion token all around it. Not like it did shit in that clip. Health changed from 8 hit points to 6. Woo! Nice! That means that this boss fight can wrap up very short. Ah, well, I'll just try again. You freaking kidding me? He regained all his health back? Well, I guess that's the new thing. Krome Keeper regains all his health back if you die. Oh, and the music fades out instead of instantly stopping and looping again. Probably missed. The final power pellet before the slide is repositioned from a dangerous jump on the first blue coffin to simply behind the switch towards the camera in the air. Tombstone enemies can damage you if you butt bounce them in the wrong angle. The safest way to do so is to butt bounce around the enemy without touching it. I'm crap at it though. There's fences on the back part of the key area. A glitch was fixed which will respawn the pack dots and the bell in the final section by pressing the yellow switch after backtracking to the second beach door and then walking back to it. Curiously enough, the bell will not add 3000 points to your score again. The tombstone tidbit from the previous level applies here. Any jumps that require you to make it across clouds has the camera pitch itself downwards a little more, so you can tell where you can land on much easier. Even the last section has the camera repositioned. Each dot explosion does less damage to Toc-Man, as since as previously mentioned, it costs 5 dots and not 10. This is a very known difference. There are no ghosts in the arena that can score extra hits on Pac-Man when Toc-Man himself doesn't attack you. The last phase has a short and flattened state if Toc-Man runs you over. This final section will have us review changes done with the power pellet and maze mode as a whole. Let's get this done quickly. First, let me tell you how power pellets work in this game, or at least my educated guess on it. Each power pellet starts with a specific value which decrements by 10 each frame. If you were to pause and then unpause the game, and if this timer isn't frozen, it will subtract 1 from its value once you unpause. If this hits 0 or lower, the power pellet wears out. In both Japanese and American versions of this game, they set an extra timer to the same value of the power pellet, which is shared with the Krome Ball power-up. This is where the difference happens. In the Japanese release, this results in full invulnerability while the power pellet is active. In the US version, this does not happen. The game only uses this timer for invincibility when you have the Krome Ball power-up, and that's it. Now, you are supposed to be invulnerable always while the power pellet is active, but this is not always true. When you eat ghosts, the game freezes, but certain things in the game like the wandering fruit, the HUD, the camera, etc. are not frozen and keep going. The power pellet timer freezes in maze mode or when eating ghosts that belong to the same ghost zone, but the invisibility timer does not, which can cause them to stink awfully. And if you're going for all the ghosts, it makes it harder to know when you need to avoid obstacles or respawn ghosts. Pac-Man World runs at 30 frames per second, so every second 300 units should be deducted. In quest mode, the timer given to each power pellet varies, but it always seems to be multiples of 150, and the most common value seems to be 2550. This is equivalent to 8.5 seconds of power pellet time. The Krome Ball gives Pac-Man a timer of 4500 units of invulnerability, which is equivalent to 15 seconds. This is true for both the Japanese version and the US version. Here's the main difference. In the US version of the game, quest mode mazes will use the same timers for power pellets as they're assigned in maze mode, and as a result, marathon mode. Note, mazes 5, 6, 10, 11, 12, 16, 17, 18, 22, 23, 24, 28, 29, 30, 34, 35, and 36 are the ones in quest mode. Here's the same timers, but this time in seconds. In the Japanese version, quest mode has completely different timers for those mazes, except for the first maze. All the mazes seem to have timers organized by each berry in the hub world. Here they are, and here they are in seconds. Finally, for maze mode and marathon, here's the timers. And in seconds, here they are. Alright, so I hope that covered everything, or at least mostly everything. I am glad I gave this version a try and I was able to unearth as many changes as I could. And I also hope that you found this video entertaining enough, or at least informative enough. Remember, if you have any changes that I missed, let me know. I'll try adding your comment to the description, and if enough changes pop up, I'll make a second part to this video. Thanks for watching, everybody. I need to take my mind off of this waka waka stuff. Oh, but before I go, I should probably mention there's some cheat engine tables on the description of the video, which I use extensively to debug the game and do all the experiments that I did here. And you can use them to get to the level select and all of those kind of things. And I also left a link to the Pac-Man World font that I use all the time, which I hope more people end up using. It's my recreation, it's not 100% perfect, but I think it gets the job done. Anyway, that's all I had to say, bye.